Grenada and the rest of the world. We begin a new week. I certainly hope you've been off to a good start. Everything's going to be hunky-dory in the coming week. Thank you very much for joining us for tonight's edition of Gudday Grenada, the evening edition. I'm George Grant, and today happens to be the 16th day of March. And yeah, continues to be a pretty tense environment here in Grenada. In fact, all over the world from what I'm hearing out there. But because this is so close to home, I think the COVID-19 is on everybody's mind. And tonight I hope you're going to be very active out there on Facebook. We'd like to hear your thoughts. Try and be sure that you're factual, because there are people who are listening to you. And the situation is tense, but really, I am an eternal optimist, and I really don't think you have any reason to panic. I'm going to begin tonight, but after I give you the rundown on what's coming your way tonight, I would like to share a few public service announcements that have been put out, not just by us, but not just by us here in Grenada, but also the Center for Disease Control and WHO. You know, everybody is scampering. I'm still not sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on. What they do know is that it's tense and this thing is spreading. And I'm going to provide some information that came to me today from both the government of Grenada and also the Grenada Tourism Authority. Because for those of you like me who are used to looking out there and seeing all these cruise ships in town, take a deep breath. Doesn't look like that's going to be happening for a little while. And if you can just hang in there for a little bit, you'll find out exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So first of all, tonight, I'm going to tell you about an invitation that has been extended to the Grenadian people to attend a virtual town hall meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday. And you'll find out what that's about in just a wee bit, obviously, to talk about the COVID-19. And then I'm going to share with you some information that came from the Grenada Tourism Authority. It's it's been described as a cruise ship advisory because of the widespread transmission of COVID-19. And then they also sent a bit of an addendum, if you will. It's labeled here as the cruise schedule update. You'll see that while word is out that ships have been canceled, calls have been canceled, there's still some that are in doubt. The national report looks like they were a little bit late. Actually, just before coming on the air here tonight, I took a look at the GIS, and the report was still in progress. I'm hoping that it will wrap up pretty soon, and I'll be able to download that and bring it to you. Fiscal Alert. We're also hoping to have the weekly edition of Fiscal Alert with the Baines sisters. We'll try and get that in for you as well, okay? So, having said all of that and done the preliminaries, oh, hey, George, don't keep them in suspense. Don't keep them in suspense. Let's take a look and see who is saddle up and ready to go this evening. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Well, I see that Ann Fiorello wins the race tonight. She's followed by Kennedy Phillip. Kennedy Phillip says, sounding distorted on my end. Well, Kennedy, as I scroll down here, we'll take a look and see if anybody else is having that experience or difficulty. Kathleen Thomas is saying goodnight to you guys. Margaret Francis is saying hello, everyone. Claudia Simpson. Claudia, I turned you into a guy there for a minute. That's Claudia Simpson. Saying goodnight, everyone. And Bernard Gilbert's there as well. Russell Abraham, he's not saying anything yet. Devon Phillips says, why are we not hearing of those survivors which are more than the death tolls to keep feeding us? Give us the good news as well as those survivors of the virus. That's a good point, sir. That's a good point. I see Ricky Kings Douglas is also chiming in there tonight as well. Good to see you there, Ricky. So let's get down to business here with our first little story tonight. It's now 7 minutes after the hour. The public is being invited to join a live virtual town hall, and they're calling it Let's Talk COVID-19, which will be broadcast from the Grenada Trade Center, and that's at Grand Anse on Thursday, March 19th. That's this week, beginning at 7 o'clock in the evening. All right. The event will be facilitated by the Ministry of Health here in Grenada, with 5 members of the COVID-19 task force. Doctors and other health professionals will be on hand to answer the public's questions and to consider suggestions and feedback, as Grenada spares no effort in preparing for the virus pandemic. Notice they're actually using the word pandemic now, eh? Notice that? Yeah. Cognizant of the advice of the experts to practice 6 feet of social distancing. Social distancing, man, that's the latest. The in-studio audience will comprise a representative from major stakeholder groups. These will include a youth leader, somebody from the opposition, a member of the business community, somebody from the trades union council, somebody from the churches, a non-governmental organization or NGO, and civil society, and 10 members on a first-come registration basis. Not too sure exactly how that's going to work, but anyhow, that's what it says here. I guess they're going to select 10 people from the public. Now, I hope you have a little piece of paper and a pen handy, because I want to share with you the instructions on how to register, assuming that you want to be a part of this town hall meeting on Thursday evening. You may register by going on your little computer or your smartphone, whatever, to http://facebook.com/Health Grenada. And that's where you register if you want to be a part of the in-studio audience. Okay, remember, this is going to be at the Grenada Trade Center. The virtual town hall is another in government's many initiatives aimed at improving the public's understanding of the virus. as well as exploring and sharing ways in which this pandemic might impact life in Grenada, and what our response efforts should be to combat the contracting and spread of COVID-19. Okay? The town hall host will take questions and suggestions being made by the audience, as well as from a live Facebook audience. We're going to be doing the same thing we're doing here, hoping that you folks who are watching by Facebook will also contribute, ask your questions, make your comments, whatever. So, to be a part of that virtual audience and comment live on Facebook, you may go to facebook.com/healthgrenada, and that's one word, Health Grenada. Once again, pilgrims, just so that you don't miss it, Thursday night. And if you can't make it down there, I urge you to please try and follow it online. Town hall meeting about COVID-19. All right? Now, let me take a first little break here. It's about 12 minutes after the hour. Take our first little break. And then we're going to come back here and talk about the releases that came out today about the cruise ship industry. I've noticed for the last few days there have not been any cruise ships berthing down here. And I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. So hang in there. We'll have more details for you in a bit.
Duvet chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate
Fiscal Alert,
Grenada are now
your
available
source
at
of reliable
Amazon.com,
and terrible
Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
There are several practical measures you can take to protect yourself from the new coronavirus. One of the most important is regular, safe, and effective hand hygiene, using soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub. Here are the steps recommended by WHO to follow. You too can have safe and clean hands anywhere. Now I'm calling on the world to take the WHO Safe Hands Challenge to be ready for coronavirus.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Calling all vehicle owners, inspection and licensing continues, and at Hubbard's we want you to be ready. From February 16th to March 31st, registration numbers 2,501 to 5,000 with single registration letter, or registration numbers 251 to 500 with plural registration letters will receive 11% off new torque tires and PowerMax batteries. Don't get caught unprepared. Visit us today at the Motor Department in Mount Gay or the Tire Bay in Grand Anse near to the building supplies.
Alrighty, folks, we are back, and yes, I think we're going to have the national report for you tonight. I think it's very important that we hear what they have to say tonight, because I guess they're on the ground, more so than you and I are. Now, due to the widespread transmission of COVID-19, the government of Grenada announced today that effective immediately, passengers will not be allowed to disembark from any cruise ship on the shores of Grenada until further notice. This is part of government's ongoing efforts to ensure that the Tri-Island state of Grenada is protected as much as possible from contracting and spreading the COVID-19 virus. Given the fluidity of the global COVID-19 pandemic, please note that all air travel and cruise ship advisories are subject to change as more information becomes available. So what I gather here is that you're not going to be seeing cruise ships for a little while. Now that release came directly from the GIS. However, something subsequently came from the Grenada Tourism Authority. And let me read that for you. It says that local cruise officials have advised the Grenada Tourism Authority of the following cruise ship cancellations. Seven Seas Explorer on the 18th of March, that's day after tomorrow. The Preciosa, that's a big ship, my dear friends, 4,000 plus passengers, on the 19th. Silver Shadow on the 20th. The Britannia on the 20th as well. Mean Shift 2 on the 21st. Crown Princess on the 21st. Celebrity Silhouette on the 22nd. Vision of the Seas on the 24th. Aida Perla on the 25th. Star Pride on the 25th. Also the Serena on the 25th. On the 26th, you have the Silver Wind, not coming. The Marella Explorer 2 on the 27th. Sea Cloud 2 on the 28th. Serenade of the Seas on the 29th, along with Silver Wind. Celebrity Summit on the 2nd of April, as well as the Preciosa again. You know, these ships come sometimes not every week, every other week. The Mean Shift on the 4th of April, canceled. Seven Seas Splendor on April 6th. Vision of the Seas on April 7th. And the Aida Perla on the 8th of April. Now, listen to this. The release goes on to state that the GTA, the Tourism Authority, is awaiting an official update on the following cause. As soon as it becomes available, all concerned will be informed. Les Champlain on March 17th. Les Dumont d'Urville on the 18th. The Azura, and this is March, the 18th. Les Dumont d'Urville scheduled again on the 25th. Les Champagne on the 26th. Amira on the 29th. Volendam on the 30th of March. Amira, this one was not coming here but going to Carriacou. Amira on the 30th of March. And the Marella Explorer on the 10th of April. And it winds up by saying, please be reminded that the cruise ship schedule is subject to change on short notice. Okay? Now, it's, let's see here, it's 24 minutes after the hour. I mentioned that, yes, looks like we are going to have the national report. But as that comes in, I think we better take a little break here, and then we'll go to Fiscal Alert. Fiscal Alert is usually the final part of our Monday edition, but we're going to run them before the national report. We'll run the national report after, okay? So let's take a break, and then we will return with Fiscal Alert. The Bain Sisters.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Core Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Spice Island.
Redleg, energizing our Grenada.
Calling all vehicle owners, inspection and licensing continues, and at Hubbard's we want you to be ready from February 16th to March 31st. Registration numbers 2,501 to 5,000 with single registration letter, or registration numbers 251 to 500 with plural registration letters will receive 11% off new torque tires and PowerMax batteries. Don't get caught unprepared. Visit us today at the Motor Department in Mount Gay or the Tire Bay in Grand Anse near to the building supplies.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Spice Island.
Redleg, energizing our Grenada.
Welcome to Gudday Grenada, and specifically Fiscal Alert, your source of reliable and credible fiscal, financial, and economic information, data, and analysis. We are happy you can share a moment with us. Approximately 1 month ago, our economist Laurel Bain presented on the potential impact of the COVID-19. Since then, the spread of that virus has intensified, and countries in the Caribbean have begun reporting confirmed cases. Whilst to date we have no confirmed cases here in Grenada, we too can be impacted. So, Laurel, do you have an updated assessment for us?
Thank you, Gemma. Good day. The analysis presented a month ago remains fundamentally unchanged. However, there are some modifications. When I presented on the potential impact of the coronavirus. Today, I will say there will be an economic impact of the coronavirus. In other words, the analysis has changed from yellow to red. In the previous presentation, I focused on development in China, China being prominent in the global economy in terms of production and export, and the transmission from developments in China to the surrounding countries, particularly Hong Kong, Taiwan, and then to the potential impact on the USA, its main trading partner, and to global economy, and the transmission to travel, investment, and trade. What has happened? The transmission from this health sector, the social sector in China has been transformed to other economies, particularly globally, and the transition mechanism remained. At that time, the global economy, I described it as being weak. The global economy remains weak. Based on the information from the IMF World Economic Outlook in January 2020, economic growth in China was on a declining trend. It declined from 6.8% in 2018 to 6.1% in 2019, and was forecast for 6% in 2020 and 5.8% in 2021. The US economy was also weak, with growth rate of 2.3% in 2019 and forecasted growth of 2% in 2020 and 1.7% in 2021. All this was contributing to weak global economy. Global economy then was expected to pick up from 2.9% in 2019 to 3.3% in 2020. I indicated then that that potential pickup was threatened during the coronavirus, due to the coronavirus. I will say, for now, there will be an impact on global growth, which will be less than projected, and the transmission mechanism is through travel, investment, and trade. And this mechanism has spread globally.
So how does the transmission mechanism and the impact on the productive sector affect our economy here in Grenada?
Primarily, Gemma, this is through tourism. And I put a capital T for tourism. Already we are seeing the effect. Individuals making a personal decision to cancel flight, to cancel travel, the low demands resulting in the cancellation of flights, and the widespread ban on travel from certain countries affecting the airline industries and travel. However, in relation to transmission to our economy, Grenada, and other small OECS countries, I identified 4 variables. Travel, with a capital T, but we also have remittances, investment, and prices. In relation to remittances, whenever there is a global slowdown in the economy, remittances fall. Remittances are the inflows we receive from friends and families abroad. But given these circumstances, where we have a health issue, the coronavirus, now COVID-19, we expect lower working days in our advanced economy, maybe higher unemployment, having to care for the sick, will result in lower inflows of remittances to our economies. Is that not an expectation, Gemma?
Most definitely. And so we in Grenada are likely to be impacted by a reduction in remittances from our families in countries like the USA, England, Canada, parts of Europe, and even the Caribbean region, where a significant number of Grenadians live and work. With the closure of workplaces for a period of time, and also the need for they themselves to prepare for the impact of the COVID-19, there will be less funds available for remittance to families here in Grenada. And this will definitely affect our revenue base.
Yes. The other variable in terms of transmission is through investment flows. In periods of global uncertainties, investment falls. In our economies and in Caribbean economies, we depend on foreign direct investment. So we expect a fall in investment flows, particularly when such investment needs to be accompanied by technical assistance. The ban in travel will also affect the ability to provide such technical assistance and a fall in investment inflows. And the final area identified as a transmission mechanism is through prices. The reduction or the effect on travel, on trade flows, is likely to lead to shortages. The panic rush to buy goods and services, all of these could combine to contribute to higher prices. Fortunately, though, the price of oil has fallen, and we should see some relief at the gas pump, and should result or cushion the effect of such higher prices. So this is a transition mechanism. But when we look at the economy as a whole, we will see the impact on tourism. The impact on tourism will be manifested in hotels and restaurants. The reduction in employment that will accompany such fall in tourism. It will also impact on our transportation, taxis, minibuses, our hotel, our wholesale and retail trade. All these areas will be affected by the decline in tourism.
And as you speak to tourism, Laurel, we know that we had about 2 more months before our cruise or tourism season officially ended. So with the cancellation by cruise ships, it means that persons who depend on the cruise industry, like our vendors, our taxi drivers, our water taxi operators, hoteliers, and so, they will most definitely be affected. And that will translate into less monies being available for spending in our economy.
Yes, and I must mention here also the decision that some of the students from the St. George's University will return home will also affect our, not pure tourism, but our educational service sector. And all these will contribute to lower level of economic activity. In addition, the measures taken to curb the spread of the virus, particularly the closure of schools, all these will affect the level of activity in the country. What is visualized in this scenario is an economy that will be propelled mainly by public sector activity. In terms of public sector activity, it will be focusing on, number one, the health sector, activities to curb the spread of the COVID-19 virus.
So what will be the implications of all of these?
Before I go into the implication, I just mentioned here in terms of the dominance of the public sector, there will be other areas in the public sector where activities will take place, particularly areas in terms of utilities, water, sanitation, and although not directly in the public sector, electricity services. And as I said, activities will be dominated by the public sector. In terms of the implications in relation to the public sector, it means that there will be more government expenditure. In periods of economic downturn or depression in the economy, government revenues normally fall, but there will always be a need for expenditure. The expenditures will be focused on areas relating to the wage bill, as we have expenditure for personnel to deal with the precautionary measures relating to the virus. We will also need to have expenditures on goods and services, as we procure supplies relating to the health sector. And also, we will need to examine expenditure on social services. What are the areas where expenditures will be needed to support the economy during this period of economic uncertainty? In addition, also, capital expenditure and the need to maybe find places to rehabilitate may also increase during this period. So there will be a focus, therefore, on public sector expenditure. And the financial sector, although affected, will provide support to the economy during this period. And this is the scenario we will have in terms of the economy. The other area is, how will the government finance such activity? Funds must be received from some source. The primary or the first source would be reserves. And this will bring us to our Fiscal Responsibility Act. In the Fiscal Responsibility Act, provision is made for 40% of inflows from the Citizens by Investment Program to be reserved for budgetary expenditure relating to contingencies, debt reduction, and natural disasters. So one of the issue is, will this reserve be activated in this period of uncertainty?
But I would guess, Laurel, that there must be a declaration of a national emergency in order to activate the clauses in the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
Yeah, this Fiscal Responsibility Act makes provisions for reactivating it in periods of emergency. However, there is a clause that allows the minister to suspend the fiscal responsibility provision in cases of emergencies associated with natural disasters and public health epidemic. Because recall, we are operating under the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which makes provision for a constraining factor in relation to government expenditure. It must not grow by more than 3% in real terms. So there are provisions, there are escape clauses when the provisions of the Fiscal Responsibility Act could be relaxed. The other source of funds could be grants. And this is a good source of funds during periods of emergencies. Generally, the UN agencies, and there had been a declaration also related to that, make provisions for grant fund to support the health sector. And the other area, and the area I considered in terms of last resort, it's loans. And under that, we would have had the announcement from the IMF and the World Bank of the provisions of financial assistance in this time of emergency to support the health sector. But I must say here that in terms of seeking loan, it must go with caution, with assessment of the situation, as loan require repayments at some point in times. And also, in terms of negotiation for loan and grant, a regional approach is recommended, as given the extent of the virus, there will be competition for the limited source of funds, and hence the regional approach is recommended.
That's a very good observation. So are there any lessons for us as we move forward?
I think in moving forward and reflecting as the development goes on, one, strengthening regional approach during disasters. There is scope for strengthening regional cooperation in addressing emergencies and dealing with the effects of such emergencies. The second area I want to identify is that of building fiscal reserves. This is the front line in terms of available resources during periods of emergencies. So it is anticipated that the reserve, based on the Fiscal Responsibility Act, could be utilized as a source of buffering during this period of uncertainty as a result of the coronavirus. And finally, I want to say, always maintaining a sound financial system that could buffer itself during these periods of economic depression or downturn. It means having adequate liquidity, maintaining low loan deposits, loan delinquency ratios, so that it can withstand this period of low economic activity and uncertainty. So we need to keep, while we keep an eye on preventing the spread of the virus, we also need to keep an eye on the economy as we go forward.
And as we look at the economy, we also have to look at our agriculture and food security. Because in times like these, when there are bans on trade and travel, we need to be able to feed ourselves. So agriculture has a role to play, especially at this point in time. Thank you, Laurel, for your explanation. As we go forward, we need to prepare and continue to prepare so as to prevent the COVID-19 from reaching on our shores, and if we are affected, to be able to take the necessary caution. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience. Join us again next Monday for Fiscal Alert. Remember, knowledge is power. Experience is the greatest teacher. Thank you.
Alrighty. That's this week's edition of Fiscal Alert with the Bain Sisters. In just a wee bit, we'll get to the national report, which runs about 19 minutes tonight. And I just received, within the last hour, I received a couple of statements here. This one is from the Ministry of Legal Affairs. They're talking about protocols for the COVID-19. Let me share this with you. The Ministry of Legal Affairs, in ongoing consultation with the Grenada Bar Association and various other stakeholders, has taken active steps to help prevent the potential spread of the coronavirus in Grenada. Immediately following the Honorable Prime Minister's announcement to the nation last Friday, it was agreed that the court was an area that required urgent attention to ensure proper balance between the social distancing advisory and the rights of people to have access to justice here in Grenada. The Honorable Chief Justice has encouraged member states to utilize technology as much as possible, particularly using the option of video conferencing where possible. To this extent, the civil courts have allowed litigants and witnesses who would have otherwise traveled to Grenada from outside of the jurisdiction to attend hearings to be linked into the proceedings via video conference. Where this is not a practical option, the matters have been given a short adjournment to allow the court office to make a further determination based on further advisories by the authorities. The criminal courts have agreed to adjourn ongoing criminal trials until further notice and discharge the jury on those matters. This process began on Monday, March 16th, that's today, and is expected to continue on Tuesday, March 17th. Steps are also being taken to eliminate the need for prisoners on remand at Her Majesty's prison to physically attend court to deal with bail applications, and instead to do so by video link. Already today, there has been a general sanitization of all the high courts, and this will continue to include magistrates' courts, in keeping with recommendations for public spaces. An urgent meeting will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, with stakeholders to make further decisions and establish protocols for the high courts and magistrates' courts. This meeting will include representatives from the bench, the state, the court office, and the Grenada Bar Association. Further notices will be issued to advise all stakeholders as more information becomes available and decisions are made. All right? That's the first of the two releases that came in within the last hour. Now, Religious Affairs Minister calls on church community for prayer. Yes, that's the caption. Minister of Religious Affairs, Honorable Evelyn Pear, is calling on the church community to continue to cover our nation in prayer. She says that the fight against the COVID-19 virus cannot just be a medical one, but must involve a combination of attention to both the physical and spiritual dimensions. Minister Pear noted that while she believes that our medical experts are used by God, and while she has full confidence in the local team, we must never cease to acknowledge the power of God, who is all-powerful and able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, according to the power that works in us. She said, as the church, we have the power to fight this battle on our knees, knowing that the battle is not ours, but the Lord's. The minister also encourages us to increase our prayers and intercessions as guided by 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, which says, and I quote, "If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land." Unquote. She calls on the nation to remain in fervent prayer, remain focused, and to be mindful that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. At the same time, she urges us to use wisdom and to follow all health guidelines and the announcements by our Prime Minister and health officials, and to strictly adhere to the social distancing requirements. Minister Pear reiterated that it is not a time for the church to panic, but it is a time to increase prayers, especially for the leadership of the nation. Our nurses and doctors, and all those who are involved in the front line in the fight against the virus, as well as those who are most exposed or vulnerable. She said our prayers must also be increased for those who are sick and those who are in fear at this time. We can apply social distancing, but we can increase our prayer. Quote, "It is possible to do both," Minister Pear said. The minister added that the church leadership must be commended for the immediate action taken to apply social distancing and to support the government in its efforts to control the spread of the virus. Additionally, she's calling on the general public to rely on credible news sources for information on COVID-19 and to refrain from sharing information which may trigger anxious moments for other citizens and residents, or with the objective of deliberately creating chaos and panic within the country. There you have it. That came in within the last hour from the Minister of Religious Affairs. Folks, and by the way, I'm sure you heard that today Prime Minister Rowley announced in Trinidad that they are closing their borders. He says they do not have the legal authority to disallow Trinidadians living abroad from re-entering the country, but that's it. Either nationals who are abroad, you may come back, or medical officials. Everybody else, you're out. All right? Canada is doing something similar, except that I see that Canada has agreed to allow Americans and Canadians who live abroad and are wishing to return home. They may enter. Everybody else, out. Okie dokie. Break time.
Ten samples sent to CAFA for testing return negative. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Monday, March 16th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. COVID-19 Response Coordinator Dr. George Mitchell says the 10 samples sent to the Caribbean Public Health Agency CAFA for testing for the coronavirus have returned negative. Dr. George Mitchell has been providing regular updates to the nation on the virus, sharing tips on how families can implement their preparedness plans and how the elderly and children can be protected.
Those 10 samples were sent down to CAFA, which is the regional lab that we're using in Trinidad that most islands are using. And of the samples that we've sent, all of them, and I repeat, all of them, all 10 of them came back negative. I was on the phone with the director of the lab up until about 12 o'clock on Saturday night, and I was happy to get those results, which I immediately passed on to the minister and the executive team.
Dr. Mitchell highlighted the details of the case of the St. Lucian woman who caused panic in Grenada over the weekend.
That passenger came here on the 29th of February, was ill based on the follow-up that we did. since before she came here, went to see her GP in the UK, was treated with some antibiotics, felt better to take the flight, came here, and when she got here, she sort of like started feeling a bit unwell again. She accompanied her husband, so she was not one of the players. She accompanied her husband to that game, sat by herself, as far as we know, in the pavilion. There, she was not actively demonstrating any signs and symptoms. She was not coughing, she was not sneezing, or anything where she would have been able to sort of like pass on the virus. And that happened on the 1st. She went back to the hotel after the game and did not go out after that based on the information we have. So it is interesting to note, Leslie, and that particular patient did not even pass the virus to her husband, who she lived with and would have been in the most maybe proximal, contact with her. And they have tested the rest of passengers as well. And as far as we know and as far as we're concerned, none of them who are on the party have tested positive.
The COVID-19 coordinator says the Ministry of Health is currently doing contact tracing to find anyone who may have been in close proximity or direct contact with the individual, so they too can be tested.
Our team on the ground went to Radisson on Saturday and do as a thorough contact tracing as we can possibly do. And so persons have been followed up and are being checked to ensure that that person did not infect anybody here.
Another batch is ready to serve with the Royal Grenada Police Force. On Friday, the passing out ceremony of recruit course number 44 was held at Camp Saline. The graduating group consists of 56 officers and is recognized as the second largest group of the training school since 1994.
26 weeks ago, on the 23rd of September 2019, I had the distinct pleasure of welcoming recruit post number 44 into the walls and environs of the Police Training School to commence the revolutionary, transformative process in becoming RGPF compliant officers. Yet again, 60 successful candidates commenced that process. They were filled with intuitive apprehension, having heard the varying stories of what to expect. Unfortunately, only 56 were able to successfully navigate the labyrinth and convolution of the training syllabus.
Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Edwin Martin, urges the graduates to uphold the values of their occupation as they strive toward combating crime in Grenada.
Graduates, from this day, you will be role models to society and gatekeepers of criminal justice. Every action you take in your personal and professional life will be the subject of intense public scrutiny. There will be times throughout your career that you will be faced with situations to make critical decisions that can either generate the desired results or unintended consequences. Remember, each of those decisions, whether right or wrong, will in part become part of your legacy. You are going to be challenged, you will be tempted, and you will find yourselves in difficult situations. However, I admonish you to always do the right thing.
Feature address speaker, Solicitor General Ms. Dia Forrester, had some words of advice for the graduates.
Do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. When you do those things, you have to be conscious of your duty. You have to be conscious that the reputation that you build and the character you display will define you. Your reputation is what others think of you, and your character is who you are. Preserve and guard both faithfully throughout your professional life as an officer. Insubordination is not acceptable, but neither is victimization. Neither must feature when you serve.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break. Welcome back. The Special and Inclusive Education Draft Policy was the subject of a recent stakeholder consultation, which focused on ways in which the policy can create improved access and opportunities for students with special needs. We get more in this Annette Moore report.
Every child can succeed. Every child is valuable, and we ought to demonstrate that.
Nothing about us without us. You must include them so that they will feel part of society.
I am very happy that the ministry is taking this approach, which means that we are more aware, we're more conscious, and we're willing to give them the sort of education that they would need to help them to be independent.
The Special and Inclusive Needs Education Draft Policy is intended to create more equitable access to education for all special needs students in the Tri-Island state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. While special education has achieved many milestones in the past few decades, there is still more to be done. Jenelyn St. John, a member of the Special Education Unit at the Ministry of Education, tells us more.
We look at accommodation. We looked at financing, we looked at what is expected from our general stakeholders as well as from the Ministry of Education, parental involvement, and our corporate citizens. It's just like how everybody can come together to ensure that we accommodate persons with special needs. In terms of transitioning from the school to the world of work and ensuring that persons with special needs are given some sort of, maybe not priority, but they are given consideration as it relates to finding employment. We have to concentrate on a lot of data gathering, and that is an area that we really need to do a lot of work in.
I'm extremely happy with the work that the ministry is currently doing as it relates to a policy for special education, inclusive education. We value this very much, and while the ministry at this time is undertaking to bring to completion about 9 different policies, a total of 20 for this year, but about 9 for this first quarter, I'm singling out special education, inclusive education, because of the fact that we are making a tremendous effort to ensure that every child has an equal opportunity as it relates to education in Grenada.
Several stakeholders at the draft policy consultation told us what they think the current challenges are for people with special needs, what they liked about the policy, and their expectations for its future implementation. Jared Kajo is a parent of a special needs student and the principal of the Samaritan Presbyterian School in St. Mark, which serves students with special needs.
There are so many challenges. We have access to educational services, just like the other regular students would have. But because they have special needs, there might be a challenge. So we're looking at the physical infrastructure. That is an issue. Ramps and so on, to ensure that those who have physical disability can get to classes and so on and so forth. When they have finished school, what happens when they have to go to work? They become adults. They have to access public buildings too. So all these are part of the legislation that we will see happen, and we're very happy about it.
Whatever we are doing as it relates to repairs, construction of new facilities, we want to make sure that they're more suitable for persons with challenges. And of course, the cost goes up with that. But we have to ensure that we move in that direction.
We have discussed the plans to have classes equipped with more equipment, to address the needs, like the FM system, the hearing aids and all that.
We want to reach that place where every child can be screened, not just for hearing challenges, but speech impediments and so on. How do we detect that very early in the stage of that child, before that child even enters school? We've been partnering through the Ministry of Health with the Starkey Foundation, and you notice a number of our students with hearing issues. We have benefited significantly from that. A number of our students got free hearing aids through that program.
The human resource at the school too, training of teachers or persons to assist, or the availability or lack of availability of assistant teachers, which is critical, I think, in assisting, especially if we want these students to be assimilated into the mainstream.
We are focusing on training. So right now we've just invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in a group of teachers who are now at St. George's University doing a first degree fully funded by the government of Grenada. And that first degree in psychology has a focus in special education.
Founding member of the Grenada Down Syndrome Association and parent to a special needs child, Alison Miller, shared her thoughts on special needs and the draft policy.
I like to focus on the parents a bit. We need to do education. We need to find employment for some of them. We need to be able to allow them to move from one level to the next so they could take care of their children with special needs. We need to do a lot of public awareness and education because a lot of people still don't understand people and children with special needs.
A representative from the Grenada Council for the Disabled also shared her views.
We have done a lot of work, all the agencies, stakeholders and so, but we have a lot more to do where we have to make them aware as to how they should treat persons with disabilities. I love the part of the children when they finish school. They should be trained and be employed just as anybody once they're employable. And I think we have to change the mindset of the employers that these persons could be employed once they are properly trained. And we have to put the person first before the disability.
The special and inclusive education policy may take another year or more to arrive at completion and receive approval for implementation.
Once we take all the suggestions that were given from the stakeholders present, we are going to use those suggestions to further guide how we go about ensuring that we have a completed document.
I believe it will be implemented, and I am happy about the transportation issue, the idea of being able to move children from the special school into the regular school as far as their ability allows.
What I want to advocate is that we have to have this implemented as soon as possible.
It's a step in the right direction. It's a fantastic job, and I think we need to compliment them and continue working with them. It brings a sense of growth to this country, a sense of unity, and it makes us feel that things could happen, but if we work together.
So all of this is towards how do we get to that place where we can say we are satisfied that as a country, as a nation, we are adequately providing for all students so that every child has an equal chance to succeed.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
That story just ended the National Report for today, Monday, March 16th. Let's recap the top story. 10 samples sent to CAFA for testing return negative. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
There are several practical measures you can take to protect yourself from the new coronavirus. One of the most important is regular, safe, and effective hand hygiene, using soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub. Here are the steps recommended by WHO to follow. You too can have safe and clean hands anywhere. Now I'm calling on the world to take the WHO Safe Hands Challenge to be ready for coronavirus.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Calling all vehicle owners, inspection and licensing continues, and at Hubbard's we want you to be ready. From February 16th to March 31st, registration numbers 2,501 to 5,000 with single registration letter, or registration numbers 251 to 500 with plural registration letters will receive 11% off new torque tires and PowerMax batteries. Don't get caught unprepared. Visit us today at the Motor Department in Mount Gay or the Tire Bay in Grand Anse near to the building supplies.
You know, folks, I don't know when last I have seen you guys as quiet and as subdued as you are tonight. You're out there, I see you, I know that you're there, but you guys have been very, very quiet tonight. Tense, concerned, whatever. Be at peace, be at peace. I'm going to wrap up the program tonight with a very short video. It's only about 2.5 minutes long. This was sent to me by somebody who I don't know. But the person sent this to me and I welcomed it with open arms. And I want to share this with you. Take a look.
Hey everyone, I just want to speak to you about the chaos that's going on with the coronavirus. Can I say this? As believers, you have nothing to fear. I want to read to you the words of Jesus. In John chapter 14, he says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me." Now, how can we fully trust him if we really don't know what he says, his covenant promise to us? So let's go to Psalm 91 and listen to what the psalmist says. The psalmist says this. Now remember, this is the word of God, not the word of a man. "Those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. This I declare about the Lord. He alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I trust in him." So there's the words of Jesus. Trust in God, trust in me. Why do we trust in him? He's going to give you a good reason. "For he will rescue you from every trap and protect you from the deadly disease. He will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor of protection." So we have an armor of protection that protects us from the deadly disease. "Do not be afraid of the terrors by night, nor the arrow that flies in the day. Do not dread the disease that stalks in the darkness, nor the disaster that strikes at midday." This is so good, isn't it? "Though 1,000 may fall at your side, and though 10,000 are dying around you, these evils will not touch you." Just open your eyes and see how the wicked are punished. If you make the Lord your refuge, if you make the Most High your shelter, no evil will conquer you, no plague will come near your home. This is God's promise to you. Now, what's our response? This is a perfect time to reach people with the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ. Their hearts are troubled. The unbelievers, they're so troubled. They're canceling things everywhere. This is where we get to shine. When it gets dark, the light gets brighter. And this is our opportunity to tell people about the glorious news that God is in love with them, that Jesus died for them, and not only did he forgive their sins, but he healed all their diseases. Hey, I'm so proud of you guys. Be a light, be a witness in this time of turmoil.
Yes, here we go. I was saying, I certainly hope that little piece there made you feel a whole lot better. I know it did me. As I pull the curtain down on the Monday edition of Gudday Grenada, I do ask you one little favor. Please, as you pray not only that we aren't badly affected by this virus. Yes, make that a prayer. But I also ask that you send up a fervent prayer for our government. Yes, I'm asking you, our government, and those in the healthcare system whose duty it will be to take care of any of us who may fall ill. Please, please. And when this is all over and done with, I do hope that we will be a more united nation with love in our hearts for our fellow man. My dear friends, God bless you. See you tomorrow night.